All right, thanks for joining us tonight, Eric. We've got Andy Greeter and John Marthaler on the call. We'll have them take turns back and forth here. Andy, we'll get started with you. Go ahead.
Eric, what's the emotion to lose another late one? I know you guys had that in Portland. What's it like, just given the fact of when it happens?
Yeah, I can't pretend it is anything other than gutting for the staff and the players, because I feel like today, from the perspective of performance, was relatively good. We're very competitive against a very good team, and in moments we did look like we were nearing where we were, say, a month or so ago. But in really important moments of the game, they've been able to score with roughly the same number of chances twice that we've only been able to score once from, and we've not been nearly clinical enough when we've had the opportunities to defend our box with real conviction and a real ruthlessness. So it has come down to exceptionally fine margins. And what is tough at the moment, I suppose, for this group of players is that this performance so much in itself isn't too big a problem. They're obviously adding that to a really difficult month, and that only adds insult to injury in that sense. So it's not an easy one to sum up, and I'm sure the players will really be reeling in there.
Coach, we talk a lot about teams that need to learn how to win. Does it feel right now like this team has sort of forgotten how to win?
Yeah, in some senses, you feel like we've had opportunities to maybe win that game ourselves tonight without a shadow of a doubt. Sort of no less opportunities than they've had this evening, but they've been really ruthless and clinical in the moments that they've had around our box, and we haven't been able to do so. So that's of course a problem. It's a very obvious thing to say, but that is the nature of tonight, and largely the situation that we find ourselves in over the course of particularly the last three games, where we've looked a little bit toothless and maybe have been relatively good value for a number of points and haven't come away with any, unfortunately.
What are the coaching moments from the two goals you conceded?
Yeah, I think we were really disappointed with the first goal because it comes after half an hour of them not having a shot, and Joe switches off on defending the ball that Hooge plays over the top, which is a really disappointing one to concede, because it's pretty textbook of them, I suppose, and obviously the way in which we want to defend it means that we have to be really tuned into those moments, and we have to execute at a really high level, and we have to defend the space in behind. So that's a really tough one. I think as the game goes on here tonight, we definitely looked tired. We definitely looked a team that is obviously been grinding through a very difficult situation in terms of player availability, and I think that tells at the end where suddenly the game becomes it becomes stretched, and as a consequence we get a couple of chances, but then the moment that we open up toward the end and they have a chance to attack our box with good numbers, we look really sluggish in defending on the switch of play, and unfortunately we leave space in the box where you absolutely can't. So it's a tough one when you play against a team with the level of front players that they have, in that you almost have to, as I've said a number of times around these games, defend in a perfect way. And I felt like for large periods of the first half, particularly the first half an hour, we were really, really good in that sense up until the point at which we switch off. And largely it was the same in the home game. We were exceptional for the first half, arguably as close to perfect as you're going to get against a team like this. But then the same was the case there, where we switch off in key moments, give them spaces that you really can't to some of their top players, and they can very much punish you.
Teemu Pukki comes on in the second half of the last half hour, and the attack, to me at least, looks immediately much more comfortable. What is having one of the number nines back sort of bring to the team offensively?
Yeah, it's exactly that. We obviously have been playing without a number nine since Tanny's been away and Teemu has been injured. So it does tell sometimes, and for all the good stuff that Sang Bin's done when he's been there, and Bongi's done when he's been close to the last line, I don't think you can replace the natural instinct of a goal scorer, number nine, the way they move, the way they smell chances. And that was a really pleasing moment. If there is a big silver lining tonight, it's that one, because that's what we've been crying out for over the course of the last month. And as I've said, difficult situation, but there is some light at the end of the tunnel. We are nearing the point at which we're getting players back from the Copa America, and I think more depth equals fewer minutes spread across more players, less injuries, less susceptibility to some of the stuff that we find ourselves really exposed to in the last month. So that is at least a small win tonight.
saw a little bit of a 5-4-1. Was there maybe a little bit more defensive focus given their proficiency up top?
Yeah, I think it'd be really naive to not expect that they're going to have a lot of the ball. You're going to have to defend. You're going to have to really restrict the spaces that their front players have, and you're going to have to make sure that you don't leave players isolated 1v1 all that often. So it's a shape that when we're at our best, we can work in really, really well. And I think you saw that for good periods tonight in the first half. I think the game was almost as we wanted it to be for half an hour or so, and then in the one moment that they have to really open us up, we switch off. We're not clinical enough. We don't defend the box well enough. So it's one of those nights where you're relatively happy with 80% of the performance, and I think that is in some senses a decent step when you come here and play against this side. But our problem at the moment is you're adding that to what has felt like a long month of almost relentless disappointment for the players and the guys involved. So that's what makes this tough to swallow. It makes the Portland one, as an example, very tough to swallow. It makes Vancouver last time out, where we were probably decent value for at least a point, if not a win, certainly based on the stats post game. So it just feels like we can't really get a break at the moment, and that's tough for me and tough for the staff to pick the players up, because it is one thing after another.
You mentioned sort of the relentless disappointment you've had to deal with for a while. How do you deal with that and stay positive and make people believe that you're actually still feeling positive?
It's a good question. I mean, I think I only take it one day at a time, one training session at a time, one game at a time, and try not to let the big picture loom too large. And I think that's a really important thing, because we're in a difficult period. We obviously have to alter what would have been our expectations relative to where we were a month ago. There is no getting around that. It's pointless putting that to the into the background and forgetting about it as a context, because it has obviously been really influential. So I'm a young coach. Of course, it's the first time I've been in this situation. It's a good learning curve for me. It's a really good test of my ability to keep the group positive and try and be constructive and keep rolling out a competitive team ahead of the games, which I think we've done largely, and make sure that the results don't influence too much how it feels day to day, which is what we have achieved, I would say, relatively successfully. It hasn't felt like a group that is on a run like we're on, because again, they're aware of the context. They're looking forward to the point at which we have some reinforcements in, but they're also grinding away day to day to try and put the situation right here and now. And that's been a really fine balance to strike.
Time for a couple more, guys.
DJ went out in the first half. Was that hamstring?
It looked a bit of a recurrence of the injury he's had recently, which is a real shame.
John?
I'm good, Andy, if you have anything else.
Nope, that works for me. Thanks for the time, Eric.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
See you. Bye-bye.
All right. And that'll do it for tonight, folks. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Eric.